Story. It's a good day to fight the system. To fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. We're never gonna stop. We're gonna make it count. When one of us is tired out, the other one will hold it down. We're gonna spread the love, we're gonna spread it around. We're all over the city now, and we're down in the underground. Come on. It's a good day to fight the system. To fight the system. It's a good day. It's a
It's just fun repeating.
No, it wasn't. It was coming to the end.
Oh, I feel like that one loop's funny. Well, we're stopping it. Welcome everyone. Welcome to our October Building Tenant Power Workshop, Saving Tenant Services. My pronouns are she, her. I'm Kate Rubin, and I am the Organizing Director of Seattle. I am joined tonight by our Operations Director, Tanya Moore, who's covering our tech support, and an amazing group representing, including Seattle, 7 of the 10 organizations who are currently funded by the Tenant Services Grant under SDCI. I'm going to start us off tonight with a land acknowledgement. We are on the land of the Coast Salish peoples. I would like to recognize that we are occupying the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. As we do this important work on these lands, we understand that our collective liberation cannot happen without Indigenous sovereignty. We encourage each of you to sign the petition for federal recognition of the Duwamish tribe, and if you're able, visit the Longhouse and pay rent to the Duwamish. You can learn more from Real Rent Duwamish. We'll also include a link to Real Rent Duwamish and our resource guide that will be sent after the presentation, along with all of the links that we include throughout the night. Our resource guide also contains contact information for the Renting in Seattle Helpline, the Seattle Department of Construction and Inspections, also known as SDCI. They're responsible for enforcing landlord-tenant laws, and the Seattle Office for Civil Rights. It also contains contact information for a bunch of the organizations here that provide services to renters. I'm going to hand the mic over to Tanya to share a few upcoming events, and then we will jump into the presentations.
All right, welcome everyone. I apologize in advance if I have to mute and hand it for a second. I've had bronchitis, so we're trucking along. So the City of Seattle budget meetings and public hearings. There's some various days left between October 30th and November 12th. Budget committee meetings, the public has an opportunity to comment in person or remote at the first meeting of each budget process step. So the next one will be October 30th, and then there'll be one on November 13th. The public hearing, they each begin at 5 p.m. And like a committee or regular meeting, the public can comment in person or remote. The next public hearing is November 12th. And please remember at public hearings that the city council must stay and listen until everyone who wants to give comment has given comment. Thursday, October 24th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. on Zoom is the Tenants Union of Washington's annual meeting. The Tenants Union of Washington State will hold their annual meeting tomorrow night. The meeting is also an opportunity for attendees to discuss the TU's progress over the past year, plans for the year ahead, to listen and learn from TU members, share what is important to you, your families, and communities as the TU shapes the 2025 legislative policy agenda and campaigns that are coming up. The links to register will be in the chat. Sunday, October 27th from 2 to 4 at Southside Commons, which is 3518 South Edmund Street. Join House Our Neighbors Education Fund, Creative Justice, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, and Mountain and Valley for a social housing listening post. What are your thoughts, concerns, wants, and dreams for social housing in Seattle? The best policies are driven by the communities most impacted. This is a family-friendly event and food and drink will be provided. This is an in-person event with limited number of hybrid spots for online participation. They will be raffling off 20 $50 gift cards to participants, so make sure you register. Wednesday, October 30th from 5:30 to 7:30 at the National Nordic Museum, located at 2655 Northwest Market Street. Join the Office of Planning and Community Development to talk about the One Seattle Plan zoning updates. This will be a chance to ask questions about the proposed new zonings and learn more about how to provide your feedback. Wednesday, October 30th at 6 p.m. at New Holly Gathering Hall, which is 7054 32nd Avenue South, the King County Budget Town Hall. We're talking on the Seattle budget impacts and how they impact tenant services tonight. But King County does have its own budget process. Tell the King County Council how to prioritize spending at the budget town hall. Sunday, November 3rd from 2 to 6 at Cal Anderson Park is a very scary mutual aid fair. Wear a mask and a costume, come together in community for resource sharing, live music, food, games, and more. Be Seattle will be there tabling. Tuesday, November 5th, no later than 8 p.m., Election Day. Get those ballots turned in as soon as possible, but they are due by 8 p.m. and you can track your ballot online. Tuesday, November 5th, from 1 to 2:45 p.m. online via Zoom. Solid Ground presents Rent Smart, eviction threats, and your rights as a tenant. Are you concerned that your landlord may try to kick you out? Learn more about local legal resources, how local city laws may impact your situation, the statewide good cause eviction bill, and how it impacts month-to-month tenancies, and how to get an eviction off your tenant screening report. On Thursday, November 7th from 5 to 6 at Queer Power Alliance's office or online via Zoom, Renters' Rights and Advocacy Workshop. Together, we can create a world where LGBTQIA plus individuals thrive with dignity and respect. As renters, our voices matter. We deserve a seat at the table with policymakers. Their decisions impact our lives, and it's time they hear from us directly. At this workshop, get the tools you need to protect your rights. Stay informed on the key issues. Let's make sure we keep our renter protection strong. Tuesday, November 12th, 5 p.m. at City Hall is budget public hearing number 2. Let's pack City Hall. Sign up begins at 4:30 p.m. for in-person and 4 p.m. online for virtual. We'll be at City Hall around 3:30 to support anyone who wants help drafting their testimony. On Wednesday, November 13th, 3 to 4:45 p.m. online via Zoom, Solid Ground presents Rent Smart Pests and Infestation. Are you dealing with pests in your rental house or an apartment? In this workshop, tenant counselors will describe how to deal with the different types, report problems to your landlord, and take action if your landlord fails to meet their responsibilities to fix the infestation problems. Thursday, 14th, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at El Centro de la Raza, room 311. The Roberto Maestas Digital Literacy Lab, or online via Zoom, is the Seattle Renter Organizing Council meeting. Join us for October's SROC meeting, where we will be working on areas for public comment, letters to council regarding the new Seattle city budget, and more. This is a place for renters in Seattle to come together and support each other. Wednesday, November 20th from 6 to 8, online via Zoom, is B Seattle's November Building Tenant Power workshop, which will focus on how zoning, land use, and the One Seattle Comprehensive Plan impacts renters. We will be joined by guest speakers from Share the Cities and Jackson Park for All. And Wednesday, December 11th from 3 to 4:45 p.m. online via Zoom, Solid Ground presents Rent Smart General Tenant Information. Learn some of the basics of landlord-tenant law, including how to navigate the housing search and tenant screening applications, get your security deposit back, document communication with your landlord, and deal with repair issues. All right, we made it through. I'm going to pass it back off to Kate.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you all so much for being here. We have a bunch of organizations to hear from, all providing tenant services across the city. Our first scheduled speaker is Angel Garcia Guillen from Via Comunitaria. But I didn't see Angel in the waiting room. So I just want to check. Are you here? Okay, we will come back to Angel. I'm not sure what happened here, but we will just jump ahead to our second scheduled speaker. And that would be Terry Anderson from the Tenants Union of Washington State. Take it away, Terry.
Okay. Hi, thank you for inviting me to this meeting, Kate. Yes, the Tenants Union of Washington State is extremely concerned about these budget cuts that are being proposed for the city of Seattle. This is by far our largest contract that we get. And we do, our organization runs on contracts from cities, and Seattle, I think, is our biggest contract. And also from philanthropic donations and contributions. But this Seattle funding, it funds 2 FTEs in our office. So if we were to lose this funding, of course, we don't know what the final numbers would be, but we're looking at the possibility of laying off one of our staff. We serve, and that's really huge for our organization, because we have always called ourselves small but mighty, and getting smaller gets harder to be mighty. And so losing one full-time staff member would really decrease our services. We served over 2,200 tenants in Seattle with the support from this funding. We do workshops. Seattle tenants are the largest number of tenants who call our statewide tenant hotline. And rents are higher in Seattle than any other city that we work in. And so the issues that tenants are facing are, mean they could have to move out of the city of Seattle, which that is not what we want to see happen. We really worry about what would happen if this funding is cut, because we know that the tenants who we serve, um, I, I don't have the exact numbers. I really had hoped to do that, but we have an annual meeting tomorrow, and so I was really busy working on that as well. So, but, but, the number of tenants that call our hotline, like 70 to 80% are BIPOC. We know that Seattle is not 70 to 80% BIPOC, so that tells you the disproportionality of Black and brown households and families that rent as opposed to being homeowners, and those are the exact people that will be most impacted. We don't have rent control in the state of Washington. The state of Washington forbids Seattle from enacting rent control. And so, we're kind of stuck with the laws of the state. And many tenants, when they get notices that are really scary and they don't know what their rights are, they move because that's their first inclination. I mean, we have tenants call us and think that an eviction means that their landlord is just going to come to their home with a moving truck and all their stuff will be taken out of their home. Many believe that it will be taken from them. That's the level of fear many tenants have when they're renting in Seattle. And so we worry that without our services to provide to especially vulnerable tenants, they will move, and there's no place to move to. And so that means it's just going to add to the homelessness problem. And I know I have 10 minutes, Kate. I did not look at my watch, so please remind me if I'm talking too long. And so that's our biggest fear, is that we see tenants oftentimes call us after they've moved out of their home and now they have no rights because they're a tenant. But had they called us while they still were living in their rental home, we probably would have been able to save that tenancy and they would remain housed. That's how crucial the services we provide can be to many, many households in Seattle. Particularly those that have challenges with language access, and any other barrier. So we do provide all of our services in all languages. We have a Spanish speaking counselor and educator on our staff that can meet with organizations, go to communities. We go into buildings. I mean, the loss of this funding to our organization is immense, and we are holding a meeting and we are informing our members tomorrow what they can do. We're going to encourage people to show up on November 12th to testify and want to join in solidarity with all of these organizations here today and all of the other organizations that are facing these cuts, so that we can, build our power together. We don't like to see us being pitted against one another, so we don't want to, that's kind of the worst thing that can happen in this nonprofit world when we're already capacity challenged. So losing this money will really hurt renters in Seattle, and I am really afraid of what it will do to adding to homelessness. So thank you for giving me the time to speak. I mean, I may sound desperate, but that's how we feel at the Tenants Union right now. We provide workshops. We organize tenants in their buildings. We help them form associations. We've been really instrumental in keeping housing conditions, helping tenants maintain their housing conditions. All of these things will be lost if we lose this funding. So I urge the city of Seattle to reconsider and increase those funding and actually increase the budget instead of decrease the budget, because we're experiencing a crisis in housing right now. This is the last time that they should be doing any cutting of tenant services. You know, even in other parts of the state that are considered much more conservative than Seattle, they're actually adding to their budget for tenant services. So I think that Seattle would do better for their citizens and do better for renters if they would increase the budget for tenant services and rental assistance instead of cutting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And I realized for the folks here that I didn't actually put the context of this forward for everyone. The city is facing a pretty massive budget deficit, and they've cut funds for tenant services and rental assistance in half. Well, the mayor's proposed budget does that. And so right now we are advocating for the city to actually double those funds. So Terry, you said that you had two full-time staff members that were funded with the City of Seattle funds. So if you receive 50% of the funding, would you have to lay off one staff member? Is that?
That's what we would do everything not to do that, but that's what that funding is equivalent to. And so we would lose one full-time staff member if this budget is cut in half as proposed.
Right, and if funds weren't allocated to the tenants union, if they were divided up differently, you would potentially have to lose.
Yes. We would be facing a layoff at least.
Two full-time staff members.
Two full-time staff members are
Sorry,
funded by
my
the
screen
grant.
froze there for a second.
And just to give you a perspective, we only have, you know, for tenant educators and tenant counselors, we only have 4 staff that are dedicated 100% to doing that work. So, you know, losing one is an enormous cut for us.
So that could potentially have statewide impacts too.
Yes, it would have potentially statewide impact because of our statewide hotline. We would likely have to reduce hours or reduce the amount of intake forms we could do because our capacity would be lowered. Because we also, in addition to hotlines, we know that tenants often wait for a great length of time to talk to someone, and so we now offer a QR code that tenants can then scan and fill out a form, and then we fill those forms out, and that's done by our tenant counselors, and that would be impacted, and that's statewide.
Thank you, Terry. We hear many of the same complaints from tenants and the same fears when we're talking to them. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Edmund Witter with the Housing Justice Project. Thank you for being here, Edmund.
Hi, sorry, I'm also making dinner for my family. So hi, I'm Edmund Witter. I'm from the Housing Justice Project. And the main thing we do is work with tenants who are facing eviction. And we work throughout the state. We've also do a lot of appellate work. So if you have tenants or worked with tenants who've gone, for example, a 30-day pay or vacate, that was the product of work we've done through the court system. Which it was before that was 14-day, and there was 3-day before that, and prior to 2019. What we do is provide legal assistance to any tenant who is facing eviction who's low income. And Seattle's ordinance in particular, or Seattle passed an ordinance a couple of years ago that provided an attorney for low income households facing eviction. There's also a state law, but Seattle's goes a little bit further in the protections it provides. We are the main contractor for that, for people who are facing eviction in the court system. And we, in the past, have helped about 1,000 tenants in prior years. And this year, the city had held up our contract until about May due to the budget issues. And so that's actually for us quite a bit in just terms of having to bridge that and being able to assist tenants during that time period. But if the funding is cut, essentially what we're going to be looking at is turning away hundreds of tenants at a time when there are record evictions going on. And recently, UC Berkeley put up a chart that I can put in the chat that shows what the record number of evictions we're seeing right now, particularly compared to statewide historical average. But if you use the tab there, you can also just isolate King County, and you can see for the last 8 months or so, there have been almost a 60 to 80% increase in the number of evictions over pre-COVID numbers. And so the product of that is there's record number of people getting evicted. There's more people getting evicted now than there were after the recession in 2008. And we're potentially going to have a reduced funding for us. We don't know the exact number, as Terry mentioned, but it's potentially going to knock out our ability to help hundreds of those households that are getting evicted right now. And the reason why people are getting evicted right now in record numbers is manifold, but a lot of that has to just deal with rising rents, cost of living, not keeping up with wages. And it seems like this is not just an issue in Washington, it's also an issue across the country. But our ability to be able to combat that in the time of a dire housing crisis, especially as we go into winter into next year, is going to be pretty critical to be able to provide those supports to households. So it'll be a pretty tremendous impact if we're not able to have funding any further. Like I said, we're already finding ourselves very overwhelmed. We're already talking about how we have to change our entire program. We're pretty concerned that the right to an attorney is no longer going to be present, most likely by even maybe the end of the year for a lot of reasons, and this will just add to that. So we expect that a pretty negative impact, and so that's why we're pushing to make sure that the funding is restored, but also added so that to make sure that there's a little bit more support, because so many tenants right now are not going to have any legal support potentially, or much of legal support in the area. Okay, if you have anything else you want me to add to that?
So I guess I had a question. If HJP is defunded, would that like open the door to rolling back Seattle's right to counsel, which is currently a little bit stronger than the state's, if I understand that correctly?
Yeah, so the state right to counsel law only protects tenants up to about 200% of the federal poverty line, or if they get a means tested assistance. Seattle has a more looser standard that is actually just whether the tenant can afford an attorney. There are no private attorneys for the most part at all to help tenants. So that's kind of almost like a bit of a non-standard. But typically what we tend to see is it'll help people who are making more than 200% of the federal poverty line, but up to about 80% area median income. And Seattle has a high cost of living, so that ends up being a lot of individuals here who maybe wouldn't qualify under the state law, but they qualify under the city one. And any given year, we see that's about 200 households who maybe are making 215% of the federal poverty line, maybe just a little bit above it. And so the Seattle law helps supplement those individuals and make sure that they have that support. And that'll get taken away if ultimately there's no funding for it, or just not very much funding, in which case it's only going to help so many people. And the right to counsel in Seattle is just subject to funding. So if they fund it only at X number of amounts, then it's not going to help that many people go very far, and it's not much of a way.
This is heavy. Thank you for being here, Edmund. Does anyone else have any questions for Edmund before I hand it over to the next speaker? Okay, awesome. Our next speaker will be Taylor Farley from the Queer Power Alliance. Sorry, I stumbling over that. Take it away, Taylor.
That's okay. We can be from the queer. Hello, I'm Taylor. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the executive director at Queer Power Alliance. And what does this mean for us? Well, there's a few different things that cutting back will mean for our organization and our community. For our organization specifically, it's a big portion of our budget. It's not the only portion of our budget, but it is a big portion of our budget. And I'm the only one here, so, it just means that I work for, the work that I will do won't be covered. There will be some things that we'll still end up doing because we have some coverage, and a lot of our advocacy work is intertwined. So, it is gonna make an impact so that we won't be able to we were hoping to get a program manager or an advocacy coordinator or somebody else in to help really amplify the work that we've been doing in the past. We won't be able to do committee meetings, and we probably would scale back on our renter right workshops, which would be the biggest bummer, because that's where we get to really report out housing rights. We do worker rights too, workshops, but housing rights, and more specifically around housing rights for the LGBTQ community and creating a safe space. The other thing for us is that we know that LGBTQIA folks and folks of color pay a larger portion pays 30% of their income to housing stability. That's through their rent and or other fees. When a eviction notice is provided, that increases a lot of different emotional, mental, and physical instabilities, and it's longer lasting, and it's long lasting in the LGBTQIA folks plus the BIPOC folks. So we make a point to point those things out, because that is what when we're talking about harm, those are some of the big harms. When we're cutting back security for folks to stay housed and stay healthy in that area. I mean, stay housed, stay healthy. We know all about that organization too, the collaborative. But if we're not taking care of people staying housed and not getting evictions and having to pay, reducing the pay in fees, those are the part of the harms that end up going to the renters. And with the LGBTQIA folks and trans folks, we know that statistic's even higher. And discrimination, when we're talking about folks also being pushed out of their housing, discrimination is real. We just did a survey and found out that the that one of the number one discrimination complaints was being LGBTQIA. And if we're having folks having a hard time getting into housing after being pushed out of housing, or needing to move because their rent goes up, or instabilization, those things are going to affect our entire community. And because we're Black, brown, Indigenous, LGBTQ, IA, people with disabilities, all those folks are going to be hit hard, elders and youth. So this not having services, to be honest, Queer Power Alliance will make do. I want to push it to other organizations because it is catastrophically important that we have people knowing about their laws. We have organizations that are able to help support around defense for eviction defense, we really need to make sure that people know their rights, have access to those phone calls. We do advocacy and we'll continue doing advocacy, but I want to make sure that we have funding for all the organizations that do a lot of direct service, because that is where we as queer folks are going to be suffering if we don't have some direct service. So it doesn't matter to me. I want to uplift everybody as much as possible, and that we have to have those funds to do that work.
Thank you, Taylor. And certainly we appreciate you and all of the organizations here too for all of the work that you do. I know that we all do this work in partnership to try to reach our different communities. Let's see, our next speaker is going to be Celestine Berry-Smith from Solid Ground. Please take it away, Celestine.
Hi, good evening, Kate, and thank you for the invitation to be here this evening. And I just want to honor all the other organizations that are here and speaking this evening too. They've covered so many of the important points already, but Solid Ground's Tenant Services Program would be impacted majorly by a reduction in the mayor's budget for tenant services. And we have 2 staff persons outside of myself. Those are tenant counselors. One is bilingual. The other is a tenant counselor. And we focus so much on many of the Black and Brown communities. We do our Rent Smart workshops in English and in Spanish. And we have an amazing and wonderful collaboration with the Tenant Law Center, who provide attorneys for each one of our Rent Smart webinars. Our tenant counselors are amazingly educated folks, although they are not attorneys. They are very educated, and they are able to provide amazing information and work with callers to our voice message line with options on how to navigate through situations and circumstances they're dealing with their unit and or landlord. This is important work where at the end of the day, we're talking about housing stability here. And that is of the utmost importance to share education with the community of renters before they reach the point of eviction or before they feel that they have to leave their unit, flee their unit. The information and education is really the answer to, in many ways, to housing stability. And so we educate the community of renters in 2 ways: the voice message line, which happens twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and then also our Rent Smart webinars, which happen up to 6 times per month. And we provide information for renters on many, many different subjects, and everything from how to navigate through domestic violence issues and what to do if you have mold or in your unit pests or infestations. And this, again, I mean, as you all know, this work is of the utmost importance, and the funding would have an adverse effect on what we're able to do for the community. In 2023, we served over 1,700 households, and that was in 2023. That is a significant number. We would find ourselves reduced in how we could serve a community of renters and the resources that we could share with them, and et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, I think that I appreciate everything that everyone else has said, and it applies to tenant services at Solid Ground as well. It is the
So-
major part of our funding.
So if you were to receive 50% of the funding that you received from last year, What could those cuts potentially look like for solid ground?
Potentially, it could look like a reduction in staff. That's potentially, we absolutely would not want that to happen. We'd do everything that we could to alleviate that from happening, but that's a potential as a result of that drastic cut.
And what if it was 100% same?
Oh, absolutely. It was 100%. Yeah.
And I just want to say, well, we're all in this space that, you know, they're trying to make us compete for these limited funds, but
Yeah.
we work in solidarity and in partnership, and we support each other, and that is so important for community organizing and community education. When I first started with B Seattle, I was the sole employee. I had never worked with renters before in this level, and I had counselors from Solid Ground and from the Tenants Union, both like offer me training materials, answer my questions, like really just treated it as like we are all in this together, and that's really how we view tenant services too.
Absolutely. That is demonstrated by our partnership with the Tenant Law Center, who we're in there together fighting it. And so it's a great partnership, and we're open to all others. So yeah, we need the solidarity.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Our next speaker is going to be Casey Burton from the Tenant Law Center. Take it away, Casey.
Hi there. And so, oh, there we go. Since I'm, well, Kate, you know this pretty well. I'm a little bit on the type A side of things. I made slides because why not? So, hi, I'm Casey. I'm a senior staff attorney at the Tenant Law Center, and we provide eviction prevention services. So up until you get to write to council and you go talk to the Housing Justice Project, we can handle basically anything up to that point. So what we do, so like I said, pre-court eviction prevention, and that can mean a lot of things. Sometimes people think eviction prevention is just a matter of, you know, throwing rental assistance at something. But there really is, and as others have touched on, an education component that we can't forget about. So, I mean, we talk to people all the time who think, oh, I got a 14-day pay or vacate. My landlord says the sheriff is coming in 2 weeks. And so I have to leave. They're self-evicting, but you don't need to necessarily leave at the expiration of that 14-day pay or vacate. You might have other options. And so that's why it's important to talk to people who know what the rules actually are. Landlords give some questionable advice sometimes. And that if you don't have anybody to counter that, then what? You know, sometimes people come to us and they've got the craziest notices that, you know, the landlord says, I can't, you know, have this friend over because of, well, I mean, they looked at me funny, or just ridiculous stuff. Or they come to us because they say, you know, I've talked to my landlord so many times about getting repairs, but they just aren't completing them. A lot of folks don't know that you actually have to put your repair request in writing before it triggers your rights under the law. And so that can cause real delays for them. And in the meantime, they don't have a stove, they don't have a functional sink, and they have roaches, and they have to start at square one because they didn't know. Reasonable accommodations, we are always having fights with folks about, hey, you have to let your tenant have their service animal, which you wouldn't think you have to do, but you do. No, you cannot charge a pet deposit for a service animal, things like that. You know, housing subsidies. If you have a hen voucher and you are applying to a place and they're saying, no, we're not going to let you live here because we don't want to have somebody with a hen voucher. Well, you don't necessarily know that source of income discrimination and what your options are. And what do you do if you can't find a place to lease up with that? Or if you are looking at maybe losing your housing choice voucher because of a complete misunderstanding, or, you know, we all know life happens. There are about 1 million reasons why anything can go wrong. And so what we do is, well, I'm not going to read the list to you because I think that'd probably be pretty boring, but we engage in a lot of efforts to help people out, and we have a fabulous team. I love all of them. And we're always trying to think of new ways to meet people's needs. Okay, maybe we need to draft this guide, or maybe we need to try this approach to this issue. Okay, let's go figure out this. And it's just, there are so many levels to what eviction prevention is. And these are all important parts of it right here. And I will just throw in a little getting our help slide because it felt obligatory. And beyond that, we also do a lot of work with the community. As Celestine mentioned, we do the Rent Smart classes and we love doing those with them. We are doing a rental assistance program with via Comunitaria. And we earlier this year did a whole series for mental health behavioral health care providers on tenants' rights. So, okay, your tenant got this notice. What do I do next? Okay, my tenant's landlord won't let him, like I said, have the service dog. What do we do next? We do a lot of events and fairs, and we're always trying to show up where we can help. If I've got to educate an elected official, I'll do it. I'll be there with bells on. Yes, Doug, I know. We try to collaborate with other organizations so that we can all work together and maximize the impact of what we do. Seattle represents a huge chunk of what we do, a huge chunk. And, we've talked to thousands and thousands of Seattle tenants over the years. And if we lose funding, well, this all goes away. And, there aren't a lot of resources left to help with these. And, Taylor said, we'll make do. And yeah, we might have to cut staff, but we'll all try to cinch our belts and figure out, okay, what can we cut? How do we cut this? And there are always going to be people losing out. And I'm just so sick of always trying to figure out what we have to cut in order to not put people in a position to lose their jobs, or, oh, well, we lost this funding. We have to just cut this whole thing of services. And, just call, just email, just write your council member, because they need to hear from more than just us. We're definitely in their ears, but they need to know that you care too. And we all lean on each other. If one of us has cuts, then we're all impacted. If one of us loses a bunch of staff, or maybe our program is pulled out from underneath us, that impacts everybody else, and it spreads everybody else thinner. And we know that even if they do those cuts, that's not cutting the demand for those services. It just means we're not investing in you. We don't think it's worth it. And that's not okay. It's just not acceptable. And we really want to be able to support all of you guys. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Casey. And again, I've Be Seattle, we've worked in partnership with, I think, all of these organizations at some point. And I think Angel from Via Comunitaria was not able to make it tonight. So Tanya, I'll let you take it away and talk about what these impacts could be on Be Seattle.
All right, so we actually have two little slides. Be Seattle, as most of us have said, these organizations speaking tonight are small but mighty, and we are probably the smallest, one of the smallest of the organizations that do tenant advocacy and education. It is Kate and myself. Kate does our amazing organizing, and I do the back end operations work. And Be Seattle has worked extremely hard these last few years. Kate carried us through COVID, and we have expanded in a few small areas our funding, but the majority of our funding does come from our contract with the city of Seattle. And so, transparency and honesty, without that funding at the current amount, preferably our original amount 2 years ago, we would definitely have to lay me off. And possibly sunset our organization or pause it. Which would mean that, you know, Kate would be looking for other work as well. And so, as you know, Casey has said and others, they hear from us consistently. It is important that people in the community write their council members, show up for public comment, make public comment, you know, over the phone, consistently talk about, you know, how services from the different organizations here have helped you in your life, have given you knowledge, have helped you stay housed. You know, not only does Be Seattle do advocacy and education, we also do our renter organizing council. And this is open to any renter, and anyone here, any of the organizations are welcome to send people. We have renters from all over the city come. It's in person and hybrid, or hybrid and virtual. You know what I'm trying to say. Be Seattle hosts this it's the second Thursday of every month, and we help people do public comment. We talk about actions that we want to do. We worked last year to get in the budget a work group for the Office of Rental Housing Standards to really take over the enforcement of landlord tenant laws and hold landlords accountable. That money was never given out to the work group. And it was eaten back up into the budget for this year. So that's kind of where we are. Like, for us, this is pretty dire. If we don't get funded, or if we have to wait, like Housing Justice Project, we didn't have to wait that long, but we did have to wait till March for our first payment this year, which we ate through our reserve, our very small reserve. So this is essential for us to maintain our job and do what we love. Just like so many of the other organizations here. So if you're here and you're like, what can I do? How do I have my voice heard? Honestly, keep sending those emails, keep showing up to make comment. I'm going to say this in that this next year is going to be a rough one. The pendulum swings back and forth with regards to council members. And so I think this year is going to be a relatively rough one on all fronts. And then we'll have an election again. But, you know, we're all strong and mighty, and the city council works for us, and the budget is our money as citizens of the city of Seattle. So please get out and make your voice heard. I know Kate and I both would like to still be working where we are next year. I'm going to pass it over to Kate to talk about some of the action stuff that you can do.
Thank you, Tanya. I also wanted to know that something that makes Be Seattle unique is that we look at the full spectrum of what it means to be a renter here in Seattle. So our building tenant power workshops are educational, but they're not always just focused on your rights as a renter or how to organize. As you probably heard earlier, we're working with our comrades at Share the Cities to do a workshop next month on how land use and zoning impacts renters and where renters can really like make their voices heard. We've done this in a variety of areas because being a renter is not just about paying rent and having like in your relationship with your landlord. Where you live has a direct impact, and your housing stability has an impact on so many different aspects of being a community member. So we really try to offer a broad spectrum of education through our monthly workshops. We do know your rights trainings in buildings, and we've done them, you know, at Seattle Central College, like all kinds of different places to just try to like build up a network of renters who are empowered and can stand up for themselves. And so with that, Tanya, could you go to the next slide, please? Also come to SROC. It's fun. So we would like for you all to send an email to council about the changes that you would like to see in the 2025 Seattle budget. The Stay House, Stay Healthy Coalition, of which most of these organizations, if not all of them, are members. We are asking the city council to double the funding that we had not us, but like tenant services and rental assistance had last year. That would be an increase of $5.3 million to what the mayor has proposed. And this is going to be a hard sell because we, as we found out yesterday morning, there is an even larger budget deficit than anticipated. The mayor's budget is raiding funds from Jumpstart, which was designed to be funds for affordable housing. So that is also suffering. And investing heavily in policing and surveilling our communities. And so with that, we have like some really just guidelines of how to draft an email. But we actually have a renter here, Sue Luke, who testified at public comment last month. And Sue's testimony is so good. And I think it just really like goes to the arc of like getting to the point of saying what we need, and making it personal, because that's what we're asking. Like, they don't care to hear from all of our organizations. We've all told them that like renters are going to suffer if you defund tenant services, and you've heard here tonight how there will be a lack of services. And I, as a renter who pays my rent through this, will also suffer if I can't pay it. But I would like to hand the mic over to Sue for just one moment to just share an example of a testimony that I think that folks can feel inspired by.
Hi, I'm Sue Luke. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Sue.
Okay, my story is about the Tenants Union, B Seattle, and the Tenants Law Center. Those organizations have significantly helped the residents at Alaska House Apartments in West Seattle. 11 years ago, when I first moved into the building for seniors and disabled, I was a happy camper. But shortly afterwards, I realized that the residents were not being heard or respected. So I decided to start a tenant group. Recently, our very inexperienced new property manager didn't know anything about our local tenant protections. She was bullying the seniors and removed access to the restroom and community room. B Seattle's Kate Rubin helped us get it reopened, provided a Know Your Rights training for the building, and directly advocated to the manager when the management removed all of our signs about the tenant meetings. Then, when two neighbors and I were served with retaliatory notices to vacate, the Tenant Law Center helped us fight. There have been a variety of habitability issues in our building, including a bed bug infestation that was so bad that it led to one of my neighbors dying by suicide. And nationwide, seniors are being bullied or treated like children by property management. The Tenants Union and B Seattle have worked hard to ensure that our needs as elders are centered and that we're treated with dignity and respect. Again, and this is for the city council, please double the funds for tenant services and rental assistance. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much, Sue. And thank you for sharing that. So I put a draft public comment guide here in the chat. But it also has links to where you can just find your council member, but we encourage you to send an email to all of council, telling them why tenant services should be funded, and how it can impact your community. And you can basically use the same structure, just send it an email instead of reading it aloud. And then just for some context, I think Tanya shared the dates earlier. On October 30th, the budget chair, Councilmember Dan Strauss, is going to share his proposed balancing package. Then the council members will have until Friday, November 1st, to put in their amendments. So an amendment to fully fund tenant services would need to come from a council member. The budget chair says he won't be sponsoring any amendments. And it needs to have 2 co-sponsors. So we really need like broad buy-in early. So the only opportunity to give public comment about this before those amendments are due is the day of the hearing. And that is October 30th. That's a Wednesday. And the meeting is at 9:30 a.m. So it's not accessible to everyone. So email is a way to get that conversation going now. And we encourage you in your email to offer a phone call or a meeting with your council member to talk through this if they're interested in talking to you and you're willing. Because when it comes from us, they brand us as special interest groups. And I guess my special interest is renters. It's 55% of the population. I wouldn't call that particularly special at this point, but and then the other thing is that this council has been really focused on public safety. And we can see that in their brand of public safety, which is punishment, incarceration, surveillance. But I think that tenant services contribute to public safety too. I think like feeling empowered and knowing your rights, and having someone defend you if your rights are being violated or if you're being pushed out of your housing, creates a safer environment for all of us. And so that is definitely an aspect that you can take. So in the chat, I put in kind of a way to guide your email or your testimony towards that. But please, as your action tonight, send an email to City Council. And I think we have never, ever been this ahead of schedule. And we had so many speakers tonight. So congratulations to all of us. This is, I think, our shortest building tenant power meeting ever. So do folks have anything to say, or do we want to call it? Oh, okay, go right ahead.
Hey, so my name is Kay Zimmerman, and I actually am on the Seattle Social Housing Board, Developer Board, and we have several vacancies on the board, and so I'm putting the call out. I'm putting the call out for people who are interested to be on the board. So if people who are at this meeting can let people know that we're looking for people who are interested to be on our board, they can go to Social Housing Seattle.org and fill out info link there, or get a hold of me specifically K Zimmerman at, so K, the initial, Zimmerman at socialhousingseattle.org. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay, and good to see you. Oh,
Yeah,
Tony,
it's good seeing you too.
can you go back to that slide? That one. So I guess also worth noting to folks, SROC organized around getting that $50,000 for a tenant work group into the budget. This is something that had broad community support. There was a community sign-on letter from, I would say, a majority of the tenant services organizations, I'm pretty sure. An Office of Rentals to Housing Standards could hold landlords accountable. Right now, complaints so the SCCI and the code enforcement is entirely complaint-based, and they aim for voluntary compliance. So there is no real reason that your landlord actually needs to know Seattle's tenant laws, because they don't get in trouble for violating them most of the time. And so this is something that had broad support. All of the council members, including the current council members, Nelson, Strauss, and Morales, approved these funds, and the mayor never spent them. So this work group did not convene. But there is some interest in consolidating all of the places that renters go within the city for information. So that would be the Renting in Seattle helpline and code enforcement of rental units. There's parts of the Office Rental Housing, the Office of Civil Rights that does enforcement of, again, of first in time and investigates discrimination cases. The Office of Housing holds the list of all of the affordable housing providers. It could consolidate all of those types of things into one office as well. And there was some interest in consolidation. So that might be a selling point to get these $50,000 back into the budget. But part of the requirements of the tenant work group is 2 tenant organizers and 2 eviction defense attorneys. And if tenant services are defunded, we might not have 2 tenant organizers and 2 eviction defense attorneys who are working and have capacity to be part of a work group to create something like this. Okay, did everyone send an email? Is that why everyone's so quiet? Because they're busy sending emails. Okay, Tanya, you can go to the next slide. Thanks for coming, you all. Hopefully we can keep fighting, and I really hope to see you all at the budget hearing on November 12th. And I'll be there early if you want help crafting your testimony.